December the 3rd, 2025. Welcome back to the Two Witnesses Live. I'm your host, Watchful. It's that time once again for your daily Torment report, where we cover the posts and general news of those who are tormenting the world the most. Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Let's jump right into this with Donald Trump. The sleazebag governor of Colorado, Jared. He's got away with words, doesn't he? This is how they torment. This is how they torment the world. The sleazebag governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, refuses to allow an elderly woman, Tina Peters, who was unfairly convicted of what the Democrats do, cheating on elections, out of jail. She was convicted for trying to stop Democrats from stealing Colorado votes in the election. She was preserving election records, which she was obligated to do under federal law. She has now served more than 1 year in jail and has 8 years to go. Jeez. On top of everything else, she is a cancer survivor, this lightweight governor who has allowed his state to go to hell. Trende Aragua, anyone? Should be ashamed of himself. Free Tina. Curious, why can't he just pardon her? I don't know the full legalities of how the pardons work. It seems like he should be able to just write a pardon, right? Huh. Is it up to the state to actually recognize the pardon? Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to investigate. If somebody knows, let me know. I'm very curious about that because it seems to me like he should be able to just write a pardon to pardon her. But yeah, that's like seriously somebody who is just doing their job, protecting the votes, being put into prison. Either there's something more to it, which I doubt there is, or that is some serious sleazebaggery. As Donald Trump calls it, the sleazebag governor of Colorado. Come on, Jared, let her out, man. Even a year. For preserving records, as she is obligated to do under federal law. And she's already served a year. Wow. Unbelievable. All right, what is this? For years, the Biden administration weaponized the justice system against their political opponents and anyone who disagreed with them. One of the clearest examples of this was when Crooked Joe used the FBI and Department of Justice to take out a member of his own party after highly respected Congressman Henry Cuellar bravely spoke out against open borders and the Biden border catastrophe. Sleepy Joe went after the congressman and even the congressman's wonderful wife, Imelda, simply for speaking the truth. It is un-American, and as I previously stated, the radical left Democrats are a complete and total threat to democracy. They will attack, rob, lie, cheat, destroy, and decimate anyone who dares to oppose their far-left agenda. An agenda that, if left unchecked, will obliterate our magnificent country. Because of these facts and others, I am hereby announcing my full and unconditional pardon of beloved Texas Congressman Henry Cuellar and Imelda. Henry, I don't know you, but you can sleep well tonight. Your nightmare is over. See, if he can pardon this dude, why can't he pardon the other lady? Oh, if it is a state conviction and not a federal conviction, he can't do anything about it. He can only pardon people for federal crimes. That makes sense. Well, I'll be praying for you, Tina. Free Tina. Biden just indicted Henry Cuellar because the respected Democrat congressman wouldn't play. Oh, so this was in May 5th of 2024. So this is the original. So he posted on May 5th, 2024, and now he's pardoning him on December 3rd, 2025. Biden just indicted Henry Cuellar because the respected Democrat congressman wouldn't play Crooked Joe's open border games. Oh, I remember this. He was for border control, so they said let's use the FBI and Department of Justice to take him out. This is the way they operate. They're a bunch of DC thugs, and at some point they will be paying a very big price for what they have done to our country. Crooked Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. That's an understatement. I mean, because he wasn't even there. I mean, Joe Biden wasn't even there. It was like his office and everything about his administration was a threat. But by design, these things had to happen. All right, let's see. Such a terrific victory for Matt Van Epps. Yay! And his wonderful family last night. He will be a fantastic representative for the great state of Tennessee for many years to come. Yes, indeed. He won by, I believe it was 9 points last time I checked. So, pretty decent amount, which is funny because if you watched any of the election, they kept projecting that the Amy Bean or whatever, or Byrne, I don't know, I wasn't even really paying attention to her name. They kept projecting that she was gonna take him out by like a big margin, and it just turned out to be the complete opposite. Jordan, other lawmakers were probing Department of Justice conduct when J6 prosecutors seized their phone records. Of course, former representative suggests that the timeline raises questions about whether Smith's subpoenas served a dual purpose to investigate January 6th, as Smith was appointed to do, and keep tabs on the oversight. Oh, I did end up watching a bunch more of those videos. There were. I still did not make it through all of Trump's videos that he posted yesterday. That's how many videos he posted. I just kept scrolling and listening. Some of them were really long. Some of them were like 15 minutes long. But it was stuff about Elon Omar. There was more. What were some of the other things? It's interesting to see him post these videos because it seems to me as though it's a way of him to acknowledge that he's aware of these things. And I imagine he's probably having people in departments follow up on the content that's in those videos. So it's very interesting to see for him to post things like that. I don't think he's just doing it for entertainment purposes. This has got to be serving a purpose for solving problems. Let's see. If only Trump would withdraw his endorsement for Abbott. We don't want him. He's responsible for all of the Islamic takeover in Texas. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah, I agree with you, Fury. The thing about, I mean, you're closer to this than I am. I know that Greg Abbott, he was opposed to Trump at one point in time. He's kind of a mixed bag because I remember him like flip-flopping. That's what comes to mind when I think of Greg Abbott. Is it seems as though he supports Trump. He just might be slimy. Maybe you know better. Just based on your comment here, he seems like he might be slimy to where he basically just buddies up against who he thinks can. Who knows? Well, who knows what kind of morals and integrity he has. Um, It seems like he's come through on some things, though. I want to say that he isn't all bad, and that it could be worse if I'm remembering correctly. It seems like he stepped up a couple of times when it was really important too. Like he sent, like, didn't he offer to send National Guard to offer up his National Guard for Trump, and when others were refusing to, things like that. So I don't know what to think about Greg Abbott. Biden administration created exemption for many low-level Taliban civil servants to come to the U.S. Yeah, we're aware of that. He took a huge donation from those who built that colony near Liberty, Texas, for illegals, and made a lot of money from the Afghans. Shame. Big shame. Biden administration created an exemption for many low-level Taliban civil servants to come to the U.S. Yes, we're well aware. And I think we have not realized the consequences of those actions yet. Here's another congratulations to Matt Van Epps. Here's another congratulations. Matt Van Epps wins. Any and all. Oh, so this is yesterday. So Trump did not post a whole lot today. I believe we read this one yesterday. So this is him invalidating everything that was signed with the autopen, and this is Lula of Brazil. Lula, a fun name to say. One of the reasons he did not post a whole lot today is because he was doing these. Let's watch some of these guys. This was yesterday. This was today.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. You all set? Well, we're talking about cafe standards, a very big deal, very important. Today, my administration is taking historic action to lower costs for American consumers, protect American auto jobs, and make buying a car much more affordable for countless American families and also safer. We're officially terminating Joe Biden's ridiculously burdensome, horrible, actually, cafe standards that imposed expensive restrictions and all sorts of problems, gave all sorts of problems to automakers. And we're not only talking about here, we're talking about outside of our country, because nobody could do it. Nobody wanted to do it, and it was ridiculous, very expensive. It put tremendous upward pressure on car prices. Combined with the insane electric vehicle mandate, Biden's burdensome regulations help cause the price of cars to soar more than 25%.
Something that they didn't really, I don't think they talked, I may have missed it, but I don't think he talked about Elon's perspective on this. And we'll see what Elon has to say when we get over to his thread. But from what I've heard Elon say before is these subsidies never really helped Elon. They did take advantage of them. He has said that they actually hurt the electric the sales and what it is that he's doing, and were it up to him, he would have them eliminated. People use this kind of stuff against Elon and say that this is the reason Elon and Trump don't get along. Elon has outright said that if somebody were to give him a button to eliminate using fossil fuels, he would not use it, just because the world's not ready for an immediate switchover. And Elon was actually against what Biden and other administrations were doing because they weren't actually helping the sustainable transition to renewable resources. What they were doing is hurting our country, and in many cases, they actually excluded Elon. Like, they would schedule electrification meetings and just completely exclude Tesla and Elon Musk. So if you're wondering if what Trump is announcing here hurts Elon, or if this has anything to do with, a potential conflict between them, from everything I've heard Elon talk about, I don't think that it did. And I can imagine Elon is supportive of this. He's not real big on short-term benefits for quick fixes because he's aware of the damage they can cause. He's more of a long-term thinker, Elon Musk is.
And in one case, they went up 18% in 1 year. Today, we're taking one more step to kill the Green New scam. It's part of the greatest scam, probably, well, other than Russia, and a few others I could name. The greatest scam in American history, the Green New scam. And it's a quest to end the gasoline-powered car. This is what they wanted to do, even though we have more gasoline than any other country by far. And people want the gasoline car. They want everything. They want electric. They want to have lots of alternatives, but they do want the gasoline car. Right now, it's leading away by a lot. The car business is a very interesting business, but we want to keep it that way. I want to thank Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Deputy Transportation Secretary Stephen Bradbury, as well as CEO of Ford, Jim Farley. Jim, where is Jim? Let's see. Hi, Jim. Congratulations. You're doing a great job. CEO of Stellantis, Antonio Filosa. Thank you very much, Antonio. Chairman of the National Automobile Dealers Association, Tom Castrita.
All right, so this is him just going through and thanking people. He's basically, the reason we're watching this is just so you know that they're making it cheaper to buy cars. I think he also says in here that you're able to write off the interests in a vehicle now. so that if you do it right, you can, in essence, get the first. So if you buy a new car and you take out a loan for it, you can, in essence, use the interest to pay for the first year. So this is an effort to make it more affordable and easier for people to get gasoline cars specifically. And then I'm just going to skip here to the questions, which will give you an idea of how things went down.
By California, we had like two different
affordability under Joe Biden and the Democrats. They put mandate after mandate after mandate on cars and trucks, and they drove the price up thousands and thousands of dollars. And with the actions you're taking today, and you put on top of that the one big beautiful bill, you know, most of the senators here on the Senate Commerce Committee, and on the Commerce Committee, we worked together to zero out the CAFE standards. We wrote that into the law that the CAFE standards went to zero. What does that mean? It means you can now, as a consumer, buy the car you want. It also means people's lives will be safer, because what these regulations did is they forced cars to be more expensive and made of plastic instead of steel, because you had to make them lighter to comply with these standards, so you'd get in a wreck and people would die. The result of what you're doing, you're literally saving people's lives, and you're making it where families can afford to get a new car. These actions will drop the cost of cars and trucks thousands of dollars. That makes a real difference. And I'll make one final point. You know, about half the members here are car dealers. And I will say my good friend Roger Williams out in the lobby, he tried to sell me a car, which didn't surprise me, but I just want to give props to Mike Kelly. He showed he was savvier because he tried to sell you a car, and you can afford a much nicer car than I can. So well done, Mike Roger. You just went to the wrong customer.
I was $100 cheaper.
The thing that Ted just said, it's true. Plastic instead of steel. Think of that. And people died because of that. The plastic was plastic in an auto accident, and it broke up, and people were shattered because of that crazy.
Yeah, one of Elon's perspectives on the cars is they're going to be so compelling that it will naturally people will naturally want electric cars rather than gasoline cars, and they're getting very close to that compelling nature. A lot of these manufacturers that are in here with Donald Trump have tried to make electric cars, and people don't want them because they don't have the same compelling features that Tesla has. And I can attest to this, I have two Teslas. The full self-driving is mind-boggling awesome. Like, it will literally drive you from your driveway to a parking spot of wherever it is that you want to go. And probably by the end of the year, it won't even be supervised. Right now it's supervised, where you have to basically keep your eyes on the road. Otherwise it will turn off and pull over to the side of the road. But by the end of the year, possibly, full self-driving has gotten so good that they may be able to actually start turning that off progressively, so that you can carry on a conversation with somebody while the car drives you to your location. Or, as Elon says, go to sleep at one location and wake up in another. So those are the kind of things that are making it compelling with full self-driving and electric cars. And that's why he's, always been a proponent of stop politicizing this. It will just naturally do what it's going to do, and people will switch when they're ready. Don't destroy the world on his behalf. You know what I mean?
Deal. But it's a really good point. Go ahead.
And Mr. President, I'll tell you, the Senate Commerce Committee on January 14th, we're going to have a hearing with all of the big three there and Tesla. And the entire hearing is going to focus on how your leadership has reduced the burdens on car makers. That's lowering costs, that's giving consumers more choices, and it's producing more jobs in America. And it's highlighting that's a real record of success.
Yeah, well, it's an honor. And, they were going by California. We had like two different countries, California and 15 that followed California, because you had 15 states follow California. And the rules from California were just like everything else. That's why people are leaving. That's why it's such a mess. There's a state with such unbelievable potential. But what they did with the car industry is incredible. And that was, the car companies didn't know what to do, because they had two standards, and you can't build two different cars for the same country. And what we're doing today is very big. Would anybody like to say something? Would you like to say something, my friend?
I just want to say thank you.
Yes, well, thank you.
Brian?
Mr. President, thank
Brian. And,
Once
and
again-
we love you, Brian.
Oh, I love you too, Mr.
Okay?
President. I've
He's
always said,
he's a good man.
well,
Go
I
ahead.
appreciate that. I've always said you've tackled the three M's: mortgage, munchkins, and marriage. You've solidified all of those. I'll add motor vehicles to that now. My question, I got one about consumer confidence. We just came off one of the record high Black Friday, up 9.1%.
Record high, highest ever, biggest amount ever purchased in one day. Yeah.
Which I think counters this narrative of affordability, because apparently the Americans are spending money. So I want to see, how do you view that for a consumer confidence being so high going into Christmas and going into next year? And I do have one for the auto group after you.
Yeah, I just think that we have tremendous confidence in the country. You know, one of the things in terms of confidence, if you go back a year and a half, you know, it's amazing, we're like into 10 months already, but you go back a little bit before the election, because after November 5th, it started changing rapidly, even though we weren't running it until January 20th. But when you look back and you look at the enlistment of soldiers, people that wanted to join the military, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, it's like booming, it's all Space Force. But we had a we had the worst recruitment in the history of our country. A year later, we have the greatest recruitment in the history. You can't even get in. Getting in is like getting into a top college that you couldn't get in. People want to be in the service now, and that includes the police, environment, and other things. You couldn't hire police, you couldn't hire anybody in the Army or the Navy. You couldn't get people in, and we now have gone from that to record recruitment. We're getting high quality people, amazing people, wanting to be in the military. They have spirit now, you know, call it what you want, but that's part of it. But they have great spirit now. So it's a great thing. Go ahead, ask your second question.
Okay, my second question, I've got a lot of close family friends in the automotive business, own dealerships all across Southern California. They sent me a question to ask you. There's a thing called a mileage blocker that is installed on vehicles. It's a type of a computer chip which alters the actual mileage driven on the vehicle, so that when you have a leased vehicle that's turned in, they're losing thousands of dollars. They've got to go chase down these manufacturers. What can we do to track down these manufacturers of this illegal computer chip that's really hurting the automotive industry?
Have you heard about this?
Yes, sir. They're getting built in China, and most of them are coming out of Great Britain, sir. They're being distributed through China, through distributors, selling them online through Great Britain. Yes, sir.
That's not so good. What do you think?
Look at that.
Bernie, do you know anything about that?
It works on older vehicles, and obviously, well, we got to do a better job of
Yeah,
making
I
sure
think
patrol at
it's
the border.
something, I've never heard of it. Very
I
good.
appreciate it.
We never heard of it. That's pretty good.
Mr. President, you released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what
I
happened?
don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release, no problem. You know, we stopped, every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives.
So,
That's right.
And
thank you.
if you look
Thank you.
at our,
Thank you.
numbers, the drugs coming in through sea are down 91%.
Awesome.
I'm surprised there's 9%. You want to? I don't know who's doing the 9%, but it's down 91, and we're going to start very soon on land, and I'm sure you're thrilled to hear that.
And on
Release the
Ukraine, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner were there last night with Vladimir Putin. Can you give us an update about those talks? It sounds from what the Kremlin is saying that they're not going to compromise. Can you tell us what you've...
I don't know what the Kremlin's doing. I can tell you that they had a reasonably good meeting with President Putin. We're going to find out. It's a war that should have never been started. It's a war, if I were president, we had a rigged election. If I were president, that war would have never happened. It's a terrible thing. But I thought they had a very good meeting yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. It's, you know, when I was in this office and I talked about no cards, I said, you have no cards. That was the time to settle. I thought that would have been a much better time to settle. But they, in their wisdom, decided not to do that. They have a lot of things against them right now. But you have President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and with Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I can't tell you, because it does take two to tango. You know, Ukraine, I think we have something pretty well worked out with them. They're very satisfied, considering. But the sad part is if our president, no war would have ever happened. They would have had 100% of their territory. Nothing would have happened. It's a very sad situation. So think of this. Last month, 27,000 soldiers. 27. That's like you take a stadium, a football stadium, not an arena, and you cut it in half. 27,000 people died, young, mostly young soldiers, died last month, in 1 month. And that's the only reason I'm involved. You know, we're not spending any money in the war. We're selling
27,000
we're not
died
being ripped
last
off
month.
like we were under Biden. Biden was handing everybody
That's
everything we had,
hard to even
giving us-
fathom
giving
a
them
number
all the
that
missiles,
large
everything they wanted, free, no charge, or just
of
he had no
people.
idea what he was
Can you
doing.
imagine
They're
27,000
paying
people in a room?
Top dollar, full price for everything.
Wow.
Goes to NATO, and then NATO distributes it. NATO pays us. So we're not. It's not money. We would all. I think I can speak for everyone behind here. The politicians I know, and the auto manufacturers are good people. They don't want to see 27,000 people die for no reason whatsoever, and that's the only reason I'm trying to help. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, switching to Venezuela for a second, have you checked back with President Maduro? I mean, is your pressure campaign working, and do you think how's your response?
You tell me, is it working? It's not pressure campaign. It's much beyond that, I think. But I spoke to him briefly, just told him a couple of things. We'll see what happens with that. Venezuela sends us drugs, but Venezuela sends us people that they shouldn't be sending. They emptied their prisons into our country. They sent us killers, murderers. They sent us drug dealers at the highest level. They sent us gang members. They sent us people from their mental institutions. They emptied their mental institutions into our country. And so did other countries, because we had stupid people running this country, really stupid people.
Stupid people.
And I think probably you had some stupid ones, and you had some smart ones, but there were bad people too. Because not all of them were stupid. You can't cheat on elections like they did and be stupid. Okay?
Mr. President,
Did you talk to him a second time, or just that one time?
What's that?
To Maduro, did you speak to him again?
No, I didn't.
Mr. President, if you do find...
When you spoke with Mr. Witkoff and with Mr. Kushner
Last night,
did they give you the sense that President Putin still wants to end the war, wants to make peace?
He would like to end the war. That was their impression. Now, whether or not,
you believe him?
We'll watch this for another minute.
Their impression was that he would like to see the war ended. I think he'd like to get back to dealing a more normal life. I think he'd like to be trading with the United States of America, frankly, instead of, losing thousands of soldiers a week. But their impression was very strongly that he'd like to make a deal. We'll see what happens.
Mr. President, in the boat strikes, if it is found that survivors were actually killed while clinging on to that boat, should Secretary Hegseth, Admiral Bradley, or others be punished?
I think you're going to find that this is war, that these people were killing our...
So that's a really underhanded question. So if you're not aware of the situation, there's an accusation that they had, you've seen the boats. We've shown them on the show here a couple of times, to where they've blown up boats that that were speeding through the water that they claimed had drugs on them. And they say they have all the evidence. You can clearly see the drugs on the deck of the boat, and you can see the people armed with the guns. They've tried other ways to deal with these boats, and they've just basically have no other choice but to blow them up. Otherwise, they just end up back in our country. So in an effort to stop the drugs, this is what they have to do. But what the claim is that there have been survivors after they have blown up the boats. And Pete Hegseth, this is the claim. I'm not saying that he did this, but there's the claim that he gave the order to, when he saw survivors, to take them out, to kill them. You know what I mean? And from what I understand, there's no evidence of that at all whatsoever. So by asking these questions, they're trying to push that narrative. And it seems to be an attempt to cause division between the Secretary of War and Donald Trump.
People by the millions, actually, if you look over a few years. I think last year we lost close to 300,000 people were killed. That's not mentioning all the families. Have you seen what happens with the families of not only the people killed, the people that are trying to get their son or their daughter off of this poison that they've been fed? I think you're going to find that there's a very receptive ear to doing exactly what they're doing, taking out those boats. And Very soon we're going to start doing it on land too, because we know
Good.
every route, we know every house, we know where they manufacture this crap, we know where they put it all together, and I think you're going to see it very soon on land also. Yeah, please.
So to be clear, you support the decision to kill survivors
No.
after the
No, I
initial-
a
support
trap.
the decision to knock out the boats.
There you
and
go.
Whoever's piloting those
'Cause
boats.
the reason she's asking this is it is a war crime to kill survivors. So if they attack the boats, I believe this is the claim. I don't know if it's actually true. I'm just repeating what I've heard. If they attack the boats and the threat has been neutralized and there are survivors after that, if they go in and then they slaughter them, then it's a different class of attack, potentially a war crime. And that's what is why she's asking this question, to try and get him to either affirm or deny. And the way he answers is just genius.
Boats, most of them are gone, but whoever are piloting those boats, they're guilty of trying to kill people in our country. Yeah, please.
The House Judiciary Committee has subpoenaed Jack Smith to ask about his investigation of you. I wondered, for a deposition, I wondered if you'd prefer to see that as a hearing so that the American public can see the questions and the responses more easily.
I'd rather see it probably at a hearing. Look, Jack Smith is a thug. He's a failed prosecutor. He's a bad man. He's an evil man. He hurt a lot of people. Forget about me. You know, I do this stuff, but I got indicted many times by a guy that they were dismissed. He's a bad.
All right, we probably don't need to watch the rest of this. It's just I was watching this to get an update, to give you a reason why he hasn't posted that much today. It's not that he hasn't been busy and not speaking the truth and confronting evil that's going on. He's definitely been doing that all day long. And there's a couple other videos too. There was another one that I caught earlier. I couldn't find it. It's not posted on the White House channel yet. Let me go look here. There was one earlier this morning too. Yeah, it's not in there. I'm not sure where they. Oh, is this it? 21 hours ago. No, that's not it. Maybe it's not posted yet. The most ridiculous thing I ever heard was when they expected someone to try to save survivors during a battle. After the battle is over, if there are survivors, you save them, not during a battle. Yeah, and I think that's why he answered, "This is war." I mean, like, that's the answer. It's like, you know, this is not a. They've talked about this before too, to where they have tried to catch the boats, and a lot of these boats are too fast to catch. And when they do, they arrest them and turn them over into the countries, and then the countries just put them back on the boats again to send the drugs over. So, yeah, it's constantly attacking, you know, and it's interesting because it's really exposing. Really, people need to be paying attention to at least Donald Trump, the president of the United States. People need to be paying attention to what he's saying. He's extremely visible. He's not hiding anything. The guy's in front of a camera almost all day long during his workday, almost all day long. And when he's not in front of a camera, he's posting on Truth Social. He's incredibly transparent. And it still boggles my mind how people are tormented by him, because instead of watching him and listening to what he's doing, listening to what they're doing, like, he has these roundtables. He'll sit down and he'll do these meetings where he'll just sit there and listen. And the man has amazing ability to listen and hear what people are saying, process it, and decide what to do about it. I can only explain it as he has incredible skill, and it would not surprise me if there's not a spiritual direction here, if he's not listening to the Holy Spirit helping him in this kind of stuff. But it blows my mind how speaking the truth irritates people, torments people, and especially the religious people out there. I can't tell you how many people I come across on YouTube who are painting him as the Antichrist. I just heard last night one person who was trying to make the claim that because he got shot in the ear, that was the deadly head wound. Lord, no. I mean, I came out the day that happened because I knew and said that same thing. Oh, here we go. People are going to say that's the deadly head wound. Well, number one, it wasn't deadly. It was just a little teeny tiny nick. And I'm of the opinion, I agree more with Jonathan Cahn, that it was more comparable to an anointing, because everything that happened, the full summary of what happened in that event when they tried to assassinate him, was fell in line with what's written about anointing a leader, in Leviticus. Even the shoes coming off were part of it. And the fact that he didn't die is that was not a deadly head wound. It did not it had it actually hit him and caused damage, that would have been a deadly head wound. It was indeed a miracle. But yeah, it blows my mind that people can. The thing is they're not listening to him. What happens, I believe, is they have such hatred for him that they can't stomach listening to him, because that's just human nature. When you're angry with somebody or you think somebody is evil, you filter everything they say through that filter of hatred. I believe that's why Jesus says you can't hate your brother and say that you're loving God, because when you just foment that hate, where is that in that scripture? Where is that? So he that says he who hates his brother. Um, 1 John 4:20, whoever claims to love God yet hates a brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. Even if a man say, I love God and hateth his brother, he is a liar. And it's sad. I see so many people who are doing that, who hate him. And I mean, you're here with me. This is kind of the whole point of going through his timeline and listening to him, is to determine, what's going on. It's being observant. And, if he was doing things that were evil and malicious, we would see it, but he's not. I haven't seen him do anything that's evil or malicious. I hear him to be empathetic. He listens. He's decisive. It's clear that he's listening to the direction of the Holy Spirit, because he is making holy judgments. He is making, they're hard. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I may not make the same decision if I were placed in a similar situation. But that's the role of a leader. Sometimes you have to make hard choices, and he's very good at it. And he has endless energy. Watchful, do you think that asteroid heading to Earth in 3 years is Wormwood? I do. I believe that is. So let me show you this timeline. I have it on my timeline. So right here where it says 4/13/29, Apophis / Wormwood, that would line up. Although I have two timelines now. I need to update. We have this timeline. We have this timeline, which only goes to. This one has seal number 6 opening in August 28th, 2026. I don't know where Wormwood would fit in this timeline. This one is based on what's called a mirror image, or a chiastic structure, where based on the first 3 seals, seal 1, 2, and 3, that were marked by eclipses, annular solar eclipses, marked the opening of these, along with events on the Earth, marked these. There are eclipses that mirror these, which boggles my mind that is the case, that there's actually eclipses an equal number of days away. So like if you have seal number 4 here in the middle, it's equal number of days between the eclipses, both on the left side and the right side, which is just mind-boggling. Just the symmetry is mind-boggling. And it kind of explains why there's only 4 living creatures, because you've got the first living creature calls attention to seal number 1. What's interesting about the living creatures is the order that they're given in Revelation 4 or 5. It's lion, calf, face of a man, flying eagle, the eclipses that happened in the section of the sky of the living creatures are in reverse order. So it was given lion, calf, face of a man, flying eagle. And the way that the seals opened was flying eagle, face of a man, calf, lion. So anyway, but the fact that there's only 4 of them and not 7 is something that should get your attention. And this pattern right here is one explanation for why 7 weren't given, why there's not 7 living creatures. Because if you may only need to know the first 4 in order to infer the last 3, and that would point to this chiastic structure because it's a mirror image. Now, unfortunately, these don't mirror these eclipses don't mirror the same constellations, the section of the sky that these were in. It's like yeah, I can't remember what they are. I have it on one of my charts somewhere, but they don't mirror. It's only the eclipses themselves that actually mirror this. Anyway, so that's one version of the timeline. If this version of the timeline is the one that's right, you can see that the end of it is in like 2027. Which it could be, because the other thing here, and what I need to do is get these both of these timelines side by side so we can see the differences. On this one, I had seal 6 and 7 opening basically in 2028, 2029, and 2030. So basically in that time frame. And then that would put Apophis at April 13th, 2029, which is the asteroid that I believe you're referring to, which I do think is probably Wormwood. But a lot of the events that happen, like the bowls and the trumpet judgments, they happen between seal number 6 and seal number 7. So I'm actually more inclined to believe that this is probably the right timeline because there's just more space for those things to happen. Probably don't want to read them tonight because we still have Elon to get through and some other things I wanted to get to. But you see what I'm saying? I'm currently working on this. I'm working on getting this to make it a lot easier to present. I know this is kind of complicated if you're not super interested in the timelines and the data. What my goal is to get a chart where I have both of these potential candidates with the data listed for them so that we can kind of figure out which one is right. This one explains why there's only 4 living creatures. That would explain why there's only 4 living creatures, calling attention to the first 4 seals and not all 7 seals. But this one kind of has more time for the 7 for God's wrath, really. And it also it's also a more symmetrical because you have two weeks of years to where you got 7 years from 2017 to 2024 and then 7 years from 2024 to 2031. Anyway, long way of answering your question. There's a blue planet and a red comet with double tail right here with us. The red body is a destroyer. I know because I watched them for 10 years orbit with Venus. The blue planet? Which blue planet? Are you talking about like Uranus or Neptune? And a red comet with a double tail. I'm not across all of the comets. The primary one that we've been paying attention to is 3I Atlas and 3E Atlas. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you've got any information on stars you've been observing and stuff that's been happening in the sky, please send it to me at twowitnesseslive@gmail.com. I'm always interested in that stuff. Because I do believe that's God's timetable. That's his timepiece. That's how things are marked. Because in Genesis, it says he gave them to us for signs, seasons, days, and years. All right, let's get back over here. I think we're done with Donald Trump. See if he's posted anything new. Nope, sleazebag. Did I want to cover anything else? I think we're good with Donald Trump. Let's move on now to Elon Musk. Over to Elon Musk's timeline here. This is his pinned post with Nikhil, which is good. And this is so Jensen Huang was on Joe Rogan recently. I watched the entire interview. It was really amazing. I am so floored at who this man is. I love listening to him. He went through like the history of how NVIDIA got started. Really some impossible. It sounds very similar to what happened with Elon Musk and him starting his companies and how they were facing impossibilities. And I want to, if we have time, I want to play for you him describing what it was that saved his company and really launched it. If you're not aware of this, he's directly responsible for the artificial intelligence and the disruptive technology that we have today. Now, that you could look at that in a couple of different ways. You could look at it in a good way, and you can look at it in a bad way. I tend to look at these things in the positive because Jesus said all these things must take place. And when you hear his story, it literally sounds like God was working in him because he just laid his heart out, was 100% honest, told his investor that there is zero chance that what we're going to do will succeed. But if you don't invest, we're going to fail. It's a really amazing story. This interview was surprisingly one of the best interviews I've heard in a long time. And I have just a whole new level of respect for Jensen. Check this out. This is him.
And so we created.
This is him talking about Elon.
And so we created this thing. I announced it at GTC, and at one of our annual events, and I described this deep learning thing, computer vision thing, and this computer called DGX-1. The audience was like completely silent. They had no idea what I was talking about. And I was lucky because I'd known Elon, and I helped him build the first computer for Model 3, the Model S. And when he wanted to start working on autonomous vehicle, I helped him build the computer that went into the Model S AV system, his full self-driving system. We were basically the FSD computer version 1. And so we're already working together. And when I announced this thing, nobody in the world wanted it. I had no purchase orders, not one. Nobody wanted to buy it. Nobody wanted to be.
I actually watched his presentation. I love watching his presentations. They're very interesting. He knows his material, and the way he talks about them it's very entertaining to watch. And I remember watching that presentation. I was kind of floored to learn that nobody wanted it's like he was up there saying, we've made these amazing breakthroughs, and these are all the things that you can do with it. And he talks about how great they are. And like he didn't have any orders. But Elon happened to be then. So this is directly responsible for XAI today, which is, well, no. So, so this is responsible for OpenAI because that's how far back it goes. So they produced the computer for OpenAI back before it became evil. And now he's also producing the computers for XAI in order to defend against OpenAI. So just very interesting the way things have happened. Everything that I see happening in the world today is like you're on one side or the other. It's definitely like this dividing, harvesting separation that's taken place.
Part of it, except for Elon. He was at the event, and we were doing a fireside chat about the future of self-driving cars. I think it's like 2016. Yeah, maybe at that time it was 2015. And he goes, you know what? I have a company that could really use this. And I said, wow, my first customer. And so I was pretty excited about it. And he goes, yeah, we have this company. It's a nonprofit company. And all the blood drained out of my face. Yeah. I just spent a few $1 billion building this thing. It cost $300,000. And, you know, the chances of a nonprofit being able to pay for this thing is approximately zero. And he goes, you know, this is it's an AI company, and it's a nonprofit, and we could really use one of these supercomputers. And so I picked it up. I built the first one for ourselves. We're using it inside the company. I boxed one up. I drove it up to San Francisco, and I delivered it to Elon in 2016. A bunch of researchers were there. Peter Beal was there. Ilya was there. There was a bunch of people there. And I walk up to the second floor where they were all kind of in a room, this smaller than your place here. And that place turned out to have been OpenAI. 2016.
Wow.
Just a bunch of people sitting in a room.
It's not really nonprofit anymore, though, is it?
They're not nonprofit anymore. Yeah.
Weird how that works.
Yeah. But anyhow, Elon was there. It was really a great moment. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Look at you, bro. Same jacket.
Look at that. I haven't aged. Not a lick of black hair though.
The size of it is it's significantly smaller. That was the other day.
Okay, so
SpaceX.
There you go.
Yeah, look at the difference. That's
exactly
crazy.
The same industrial design.
He's holding it in his hand.
Can't really see it.
Here's the amazing thing. DGX-1 was 1 petaflops. Okay, that's a lot of flops. And DGX Spark is 1 petaflops. 9 years later.
So
wow,
the same amount of computing horsepower
in a much smaller
shrunken.
They don't do a real good job of showing the difference between the first DJI X1 and the DJI Spark. One of them is like the size of maybe a desktop computer, like a big tower, or bigger. It's actually bigger than that. Pretty big, beefy thing. Requires a lot of power to run. And then DJI Spark is like the size of a MacBook Pro, or like the size of a book. So basically what he's illustrating is the technology they gave OpenAI, they have now since shrunk to where it uses a lot less space and a lot less power.
Down.
Yeah.
And instead of $300,000, it's now $4,000.
And it's the size of a small book.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Crazy.
That's how technology moves. Anyways, that's the reason why I wanted to give him the first one.
This was such a good interview. I was really impressed. All right, we'll circle back around because I actually have some bookmarks in that interview that we may cover depending on how much Elon reposted and posted today. All right, let's see. If the state will not use its monopoly on violence to protect the public from violent criminals, then the social contract is gone. Public order is the bare minimum required for government legitimacy. Muhammad was sentenced in May in 2 previous rape cases, but served no prison time. Yeah, so this has been a theme. Elon's been reposting this kind of stuff quite a bit. 2020 study looked at bullying in the United States. The findings suggest generally and specifically when minorities in school settings. Not just black and white, peer victimization, and the intersectionality of school diversity and race. What is this? Dan the Parody Man. That's good. Oh, that's an ad. You almost got me. That's an ad. You can tell because it says right there. Ad. I almost clicked on it. That's a Grok generation of a police Cybertruck, which looks pretty cool. New benchmark. Okay, that's just about Grok. We don't need Grok updates. Grok's awesome. Let's see, the far left imported voters to gain power, and it worked. Ilhan Omar wasn't even elected by Americans. She was elected by 80,000 Somalis that Obama dropped in Minnesota. A lot of the videos that Trump posted that we didn't get to yesterday were about Ilhan Omar. It would not surprise me if they don't denaturalize her and kick her out of Congress. With what he's been posting, that seems to be where he's probably going with that kind of stuff. Sentencing remarks in Rotherham Grooming Gang's case read like wartime atrocities. They do. I can't even read this on YouTube. You're going to have to read this for yourself. They're atrocities about what these gangs do to little girls in the UK, in Rotherham. I can't even read this stuff because YouTube won't allow that kind of stuff on the stream. If you want to read it, you're going to have to go check it out on his post. It's not that many. It's just a couple from the top. Wow, Grok app downloads. Yeah, okay. Britain, foreign national sex crime arrest rates in England and Wales. A lot of that stuff today. I actually canceled my Pro ChatGPT subscription last week. I now use Gemini and Grok. I did that a while ago. The only thing that ChatGPT had that was better than Grok was the fact that when you generated images, you could put text on those images and it would get it accurate the majority of the time. Grok has since fixed their image generation with text, and now it kicks butt. It does as good as ChatGPT. So I have zero reason to use ChatGPT. I don't want to support them because of what Sam Altman did with that company. It was started as a nonprofit open source company that was intended to protect people and open source their language models, and they do the complete opposite of that. So, and I have a hard time supporting that company. So I support Grok because they do, contrary to Open API or Open AI, they do release the language models for Grok, and it's a maximally truth-seeking language model. All right. Thomas Jefferson statue was removed from New York City Hall after 187 years. Shame. Holy shizzles. Starting next week, 21 Democrat-controlled states will lose federal SNAP funding. Oh, that's going to be interesting.
We have so much great things to talk about at USDA, but the third thing, which became very much a part of the national conversation during the Democrat shutdown, was SNAP reform, food stamp reform. When all of America saw what so many of us know and have been working on, but when you have so much rampant fraud in a program that 42 million Americans participate in, now big good piece of news that I hope is written about. Since you became president, about 800,000 of those 42 million have moved off of food stamps.
This is one of those cabinet meetings I was telling you about that you didn't see other presidents do it, not to the degree that Donald Trump does it, to where he is just so deeply transparent. They do these once a month where they'll get all the heads of the cabinets together and they'll give a report on what they've done. And it's amazingly effective at not only at keeping them on their heels with getting stuff done, but also giving a monthly report. And Donald Trump, he holds all of this stuff in his head. I have no idea how he does that. I mean, the dude is 30 years older than me, and he's got a memory that's at least twice as good as mine. I mean, I don't have the world's best memory, but I don't have a bad memory either. I tend to remember things. He remembers details that are just mind-boggling, and in detail, too.
Which is hopefully the plan, with better jobs, higher wages, etc. But still, when we found 186,000 dead people, or dead people's Social Security numbers being used, 500,000 people receiving benefits more than twice. We had a couple of people receiving benefits in 6 states. In February of this year, we asked for all the states for the first time to turn over their data to the federal government, to let the USDA partner with them to root out this fraud, to make sure that those who really need food stamps are getting them, but also to ensure that the American taxpayer is protected. 21 states said yes, not surprised. 29 states said yes, not surprisingly, the red states, and that's where all of that data, that fraud comes from. but 21 states, including California, New York, and Minnesota, the blue states, continue to say no. So as of next week, we have begun and will begin to stop moving federal funds into those states until they comply and they tell us and allow us to partner with them to root out this fraud and to protect the American taxpayer. As Joe Biden was working to buy an election a year ago, he increased food stamp program funding by 40%.
Wow.
So now as we continue to roll that back. So the partnership in Making America Healthy Again is also in food stamps, but a lot of what Bobby and I are doing together is really remarkable. But again, just gratitude and joy.
Yeah. They're regretting that government shutdown. I mean, we're loving it because we're saving money, and you know, this money that when you hear about the amount of fraud that they've discovered, where people were registered in 6 different states receiving food stamps. So food stamps, I don't know if you know this, it's called food stamps because you used to have a book of like play money that you could spend. Now it's on a debit card and they deposit money into your account. And what happens is people have gotten very clever at turning that into cash. So some people were collecting cash, food stamps from 6 different states and profiting off of it. So there's a lot of fraud that's been going on. And there's a lot of dead people too. It turns out that there's people who were collecting that money who aren't even alive, which we've seen that in so many different cases since Doge has been highlighting the issue. All right, what is this? America's future is no longer majority white. This fall's kindergarten class is 45 to 46 non-Hispanic white. The under 18 population sits at 47.2% and drops another 0.7 points every year. Kids under 5 are already 43.8%. White births fell below 50% total births in 2014. Okay. Yeah. A lot of that stuff lately. A lot of these, they've been pointing out a lot of these details about fertility rates dropping, especially among white population, Caucasian. Let's see, it's not racist to want stable demographics. It's not racist to oppose white people becoming a minority in every country they live in. Oh, that's the response. What is this? So this is a parody account. If this is all just called multiculturalism, then perhaps we've already moved far beyond the point where we could ask which cultures truly uphold human dignity and women's rights. Some questions only grow clearer with time. Your thoughts? Oh, this is a...
So let me just get this straight. This guy, who's a Somali migrant living in Minnesota, kidnapped and raped a 12-year-old girl. 12, got the minimum sentence required of 12 years in prison. And when he got said sentence, his mosque wrote a letter to the public excusing the behavior and saying he's an upstanding family values guy on behalf of the Somali community, saying he was a devoted family man and outgoing person, made everyone in the community's life better, his love for his family and kids. And like everyone else migrating to America, he has faced the challenge of starting over in a new culture by learning English, adjusting to a fast-paced system, and raising children. So the rape of a child is really just a cultural difference. It's just something to culturally be aware of. It's excusable because it was his culture before. As a dad of children. Look, maybe it's me. Forgive my cultural ignorance here. But is this mosque just straight up telling you that Somali culture is the kidnapping and rape of 12-year-old girls? And if so, why are we offering asylum to that?
Yeah, we don't support that. Yeah, a lot of that lately. The future is bound to be amazing. Agreed. Here's an ad. Ha ha ha, didn't get me that time, sucker. I see you a mile away. I wish they would make that bigger. More Grok stuff. This is when he was on Joe Rogan.
Reddit used to be so normal.
Yeah, it did used to be normal.
It used to be interesting. You used to go there and find all this cool stuff that people would talk about, post about, and just interesting, and great rooms where you could learn about different things that people were studying.
I think like a big problem here is like if your headquarters are in San Francisco, you're just living in a woke bubble.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that people, say in San Francisco, are drinking woke Kool-Aid. It is the water they swim in. Like a fish doesn't think about the water; it's just in the water.
Oh man!
And so if you're in San Francisco, you don't realize you're actually you're swimming in the Kool-Aid aquarium. San Francisco is the woke Kool-Aid aquarium, and so your reference point for what is a centrist is totally out of whack. Reddit is headquartered in San Francisco. Twitter was headquartered in San Francisco. I moved X's headquarters to Texas, to Austin, which Austin, by the way, is still quite liberal, as you know.
Yeah.
And then the X and XAI headquarters are in Palo Alto, which is still California. The engineering headquarters are in Palo Alto, just on Page Mill. But even Palo Alto is way more normal than San Francisco Berkeley. San Francisco Berkeley is extremely left, like left of left. You can't you need a telescope to see the center from San Francisco.
It used to be such a great city.
I mean, San Francisco has a tremendous amount of inherent beauty, no question about that. And California has incredible weather, and no bugs. It's just like amazing, beautiful. But you say like, what's
nice.
the cause of this? It's just that if companies are headquartered in a location where the belief system is very far from what most people believe, then from their perspective, anything centrist is actually right wing, because they're so far left.
Yeah,
they're so far from the center in San Francisco that anything that they're just railed to maximum left. So that's why I think you're centrist. I mean I think I'm centrist, but from the perspective of someone on the far left, we look right wing.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy.
They think anyone who's a Republican is basically like some fascist Nazi situation.
But what's so crazy is it's very easy to demonstrate just from like Hillary's speeches from 2008 and Obama's speeches, like when they were talking about immigration, like they were as far right as Steve Bannon when it comes to immigration.
Yes.
Hillary was like very MAGA. I'm sure you've seen that campaign speech, which she was talking about if anybody's committed a crime, get rid of them. And if you're here, you pay a hefty fine and you have to wait in line. It was really crazy. It's crazy to listen to because it's like it's as MAGA as Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen these videos people post online where they'll take like a speech from Obama or Hillary, and they'll interview people on like college campus or something and say, what do you think of the speech by Trump? And they're like, oh, I hate it. He's a racist bigot. I'm like, just kidding. That was Obama.
Yeah.
No, actually, that was Obama or Hillary. To your point, like literally the
center's been moved so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. The left is so...
The left has gone so far left that they need, they can't even see the center with a telescope.
And the danger without you purchasing Twitter was going to swipe over the whole country and change where the levels were.
Yeah.
And so what would be rational and normal would be far left of what was rational and normal just a decade earlier.
Yeah. So exactly. So historically, you'd have San Francisco, Berkeley being, very far left, but the sort of the fallout from the somewhat nihilistic philosophy of San Francisco, Berkeley would be limited in geography to maybe 10-mile radius, 20-mile radius, something like that. But San Francisco and Berkeley have to be co-located with Silicon Valley, with engineers who created information superweapons. And those information superweapons were then hijacked by the far-left activists to pump far-left propaganda to everywhere on Earth. You remember that old RCA radio tower thing where it's like a radio tower on Earth and it's just broadcasting?
Yeah.
That's what happened, is that an extremist far-left ideology happened to be co-located with the smartest engineers in the world who created information superweapons that were not intended for this purpose, but were hijacked by the extreme activists who lived in the neighborhood. That's what happened. They hijacked the modern equivalent of the RCA radio tower and broadcast that philosophy everywhere on Earth.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you see the consequences, particularly in places that don't have free speech.
Yes.
Right, like England.
Where they lock people up for memes and stuff. Literally. Yeah.
12,000 people this year.
12,000?
12,000. 12,000 arrests for social media posts.
Wow. Yikes. Let's see. Elon Musk and Hitchhiker's Guide. The hard part isn't I think we listened to this, but it's pretty short. It's worth listening
I came to the
again.
conclusion that, which is somewhat in the Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy school of thought, which is
42.
Yeah, he's sort of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is like a book on philosophy disguised as humor.
Yeah.
And that's where you get Earth turns out to be this computer to figure out the answer of the meaning of life. And it comes up with the answer 42. But then it's like, what the heck's 42 mean? And it turns out, well, actually the hard part is the question, not the answer. And for that, you need a much bigger computer than Earth. So basically what Douglas Adams was saying is that we actually don't know how to frame the questions properly. So I think by expanding the scope and scale of consciousness, we can better understand what questions to ask about the answer that is the universe.
Yeah. The quest. I mean, that's really it, right? We're just looking for answers for who are you? Why are you here? What should you do with your life? The questions are the hard part. I don't know what this is. What is this?
There are Somalians in America. Yesterday, a Somalian rear-ended me, which thankfully no one was hurt and no damage was done to my truck. But it got me thinking, why are Somalians in America? Especially North Dakota and Minnesota. So, I looked into it. The main group bringing in Somalians is Lutheran Social Services. They are led by this guy, and this is his staff. Turns out, they get $2,375 for every Somalian they bring over. But we have to ask the question, why are they coming over here in the first place? And another surprise, turns out our government was funding a dictatorship in Somalia throughout the Cold War, led by Saeed Barre. And this dictatorship led to clan favoritism and overall just destabilized the country. And it inevitably collapsed in 1991. Also, our troops were over there. This is where the movie Black Hawk Down comes from. But overall, Somalis have no right to be in America, especially North Dakota and Minnesota. They don't integrate into our societies. They carry over their clan mentalities. If you personally have never interacted with Somalian or just don't believe me, I would recommend checking out Nick Shirley's video he did the other day. What do you guys think about all this? Let me know down in the comments below. My name's Jeb Ball. Like and follow for more America First content.
Kind of makes you wonder, right? I mean, obviously they're importing migrants because they want to expand their voting base and cheat. But it seems that everything that they've been doing is leading towards basically the stuff in the book of Revelation. All right, what's this? 21 hours ago. In 2021, we were told that mass graves of murdered Indigenous children have been found in Kamloops, British Columbia, at the site of former residential school. Oh, that's an hour and 20 minutes. Canadians were accused of genocide. Over 100 churches were desecrated. Private property is being taken. It's tribal land. Watch our documentary exposing it all. Making a Killing. I've been seeing a lot of these documentaries that have been coming out exposing things. So it seems like it's exposing the working of Satan. You know what I mean? Like there's the Business of Religion is a really good documentary. It's in series. I've been watching that one. That's a really good series. All about how because of the legal tax loopholes in running a church or a ministry, it's caused no end of corruption and evil. That's a really good exposure. There's another one called Christspiracy, which is, what is that one about? I just watched that one a couple of days ago. That one is exposing. Darn it, I forgot what that one was about already. Hang on, let me go look it up. I need a memory jog. Christspiracy. Let's see. Christspiracy is a groundbreaking documentary revealing the biggest cover-up in 2,000 years, one that will forever reshape your understanding of faith, ethics, and our connection to creation. From the co-creator of Seaspiracy, Cowspiracy, and What the Health. Oh, yeah. This one is about manipulated religions and deceiving humanity and hiding material about the truth. So there's a lot of these that are coming out that, like, we're exposing things. Yeah. Yep. And then now there's this one, which is Making a Killing. A lot of this stuff coming out. All right, what's next? That one. Joe Rogan notices something really interesting about when Elon Musk bought Twitter. Oh, yeah, this was interesting.
Saddest stories, man, because they've become sterile. They'll never have children, and they lose their tits because they go to a doctor that thinks you should have your mammary glands chopped off when you're 15. It's fucking. We're in the weirdest of times with all this stuff.
Yeah,
because it's like what gets accepted and not accepted.
Like the days of Noah.
Again, like we were talking about the zeitgeist when a thought gets out there, and then it's very difficult to move away from that. And it's like, oh, you're affirming your true self. Like, really, with synthetic hormones that didn't exist in your body before, that's your true self?
Yeah.
Are you fucking sure? It sounds like this might be a social contagion that is like sweeping through the land. And one of the things that's really interesting is the drop-off of kids identifying as trans. It coincides directly with Elon buying Twitter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like immediately when because you used to not be able to talk about it. You used to literally, if you dead name someone from Twitter, meaning like if you changed your name to Dominique and I called you Derek, I could get banned from Twitter for life, forever.
Remember those
just
days?
By using your old name. Like if I called Bruce Caitlyn Jenner Bruce, I would get banned from Twitter for life.
Damn.
Because it's nuts.
Yeah.
But it's like this very bizarre social contagion, this weird mind virus that went through the whole country, and everybody just signed up for it. And no one wanted to be a bigot, so I don't want to be a bigot.
And amazing how it all happened in this time frame. The time frame where we can see like the seals are opening up and there's this transitionary period to the kingdom of heaven. It's interesting. Let's see, 2.5 years. I don't know what that is. All right, be nice. Let's be nice. What is not nice is hormonally or surgically mutilating children, cheating your way to stealing women's athletic medals, lying your way into women's spaces, debauching language. I think we read a lot of this yesterday. Yep. And I think we're done with Elon's posts. All right. We guys have any questions here before I move on to the next couple of things? The Hopi prophecies point to 2 stars, a red one and a blue one, the red Kachina and the blue Kachina. Yeah, if the, let's see, Destroyer is here. If you're still on, send me your information. I'm curious. The red comet-like body with double tails. See the thumbnail pictures. The second wonder of Revelation 13 with the dragon, whose tail draws a third of the stars of heaven. Okay. And I'll leave you all with that. They are here. Good luck to y'all. They are. On that, we agree. We are in the end times, for sure. David says, me and my wife were collecting food stamps from CA and New Mexico. Was that California, New Mexico? Well, in the process of moving years ago for like 4 months, but we did the right thing in the end and canceled and paid it all back. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to stay on it and try to max it out. I like the way our state does it. They don't let you. They have requirements where you have to contact them like twice a week, prove that you're, applying for a job. Because there was a period of time during COVID where I didn't have any work and we had to get food stamps. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's what these programs are for. But there's definitely people, not like you, David, but there's definitely people who are taking advantage of those programs. And there's a lot of people who work and use food stamps so they don't have to spend their money on food, which if you've got a job, those programs were not intended to be, free food. I mean, like our country doesn't have that kind of wealth, not yet anyways. Maybe someday we'll get there, but not anymore. Not right now. So please, government, please, Trump, get rid of all that fraud. All right. So what I wanted to cover is I've got a bunch of topics here. Let's see what we want to go over. Global defense pointed at 3i Atlas. Let's see what this is. Copy the link address. So this is from a couple days ago, 6 days ago.
So I'm here outside near a Starbucks. I stopped momentarily to post this video because this is something that I thought I would be able to never share that with you. So I've been taking pictures of Comet 3i Atlas for a while, and generally I take pictures of comets, astronomy objects for the last 10 years or so. And now the information I found, it's worth stopping and sharing that with you. So I thought this is not going to disturb your Thanksgiving vacation, but spend a little time to go through this video. It's very important and fascinating information that I stumbled upon. So the 3i Atlas, we've been taking pictures, we've been looking at it all over the world. People are going gaga on what this is. The interesting stuff happened recently when NASA released the picture, and the pictures are pretty blurry. There was a cry all over the world, like how come they didn't release any good pictures? Here is what they announced today. This is not directly coming from NASA. Now the 3i Atlas has been designated as a test object, no threat, just a test object, for a formal planetary defense exercise. So
I forgot to bring this up.
It was released by the International Asteroid Warning Network, IAWN, just for the test, no threat for the Earth or planet or anything like that. It's working with the UN Space Affairs Framework. So the International Asteroid Warning Network, IAWN, I think you will be more familiar with this network now, IAWN, International Asteroid Warning Network. This is working for the United Nations Space Affairs Network. This is under NASA. So NASA funds the UN space affairs framework.
All right, so just to give you a summary of what he's talking about, this screen right here. So Comet 3I Atlas is now the target of a global planetary defense exercise from November 27th, 2025 to January 27th, 2026. Interesting, huh? So he posted this about 6 days ago. I had it on a note to bring this up, and since we're now including a little segment on the show about what's going on with 3i Atlas, I thought I'd bring this up. I actually like Ray's photography. He's gotten better at these videos. His music can be a little loud sometime. Let's see if he's got any updates for us today. No, nothing new today. Is there anybody have any other updates that are good? There's a couple of people I listen to that'll show up in here. I don't see any updates. Yeah, last I heard there was 13 days ago. The last I heard is there was another slight shift, which we talked about it yesterday. That it had made another slight adjustment, and there's an indication that there's more than one craft traveling together. Oh, this was 7 hours ago. NASA's silence on 3i Atlas sparks an alarm. He's kind of hard to listen to. He doesn't really get to his points very quickly. This interview was amazing. Let's go through some of the... I've got some notes here on things that he talked about that are probably worth going to. So at 33 minutes, he talks about... they talk a lot about AI, and he's kind of involved in the development of AI, so he's an authority on the subject, and he's correcting Joe Rogan's because Joe keeps asking him if there's anything that we need to be afraid of. And there's two sections here that I want to cover. One is about consciousness. There's a difference between consciousness and knowledge. And I think it starts here at about 33 minutes.
Experience. I think experience is the sense of experience.
AI will achieve, but the fear would be a territorial primate. It would realize the folly in that sort of thinking, and it would.
So a little bit
say,
earlier,
listen,
28
there's
minutes.
Plenty of energy for everybody. We don't need to dominate. We're not trying to acquire resources and take over the world. We're not looking to find a good breeding partner. We're just existing as a new super life form that these cute monkeys created for us.
Okay, well, that would be a superpower with no ego,
right?
And if it has no ego, why would it have the ego to do any harm to us?
Well, I don't assume that it would do harm to us, but the fear would be that we would no longer have control, and that we would no longer be the apex species on the planet. This thing that we created would now be. Is that funny?
No. I just think it's not going to happen.
I know you think it's not going to happen.
I agree with Jensen on this.
It could, right?
It could,
here's the other thing is like, if we're racing towards and could be the end of human beings being in control of our own destiny.
I just think it's extremely unlikely.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's what they said in the Terminator movie.
And it hasn't happened.
No, not yet, but you guys are working towards it. The thing about, you're saying about conscience and sentience, that you don't think that AI will achieve consciousness? Or that
the question
consciousness
is what's the
specific?
definition? Yeah,
right.
What's the definition of
What is
consciousness?
the definition to you?
Consciousness, I guess, first of all, you need to know about your own existence.
Self-awareness. So he doesn't do that great. So right here, he doesn't do that great of a job talking about consciousness. I would say that consciousness is what we know about humanity. You've got a will, you have desire, You have emotions. You have the things that make you human, and that's the filter in which that we're looking at artificial intelligence. And there's a distinct difference. One thing that he does a good, I don't know if I got the right timeline here, but one thing that Jensen does a really good job of is describing what artificial intelligence is. It really boils down to, and I've talked about this before, just a really advanced search engine to where you can train it what a cat looks like, and when you prompt it, it will give you different types of cats. He uses a different analogy, but he does a pretty good job of explaining it.
You have to have experience, not just knowledge and intelligence. The concept of a machine having an experience, well, first of all, I don't know what defines experience, why we have experiences.
Right.
Yeah. And why this microphone doesn't. And so I think I know, I think I know what consciousness is. The sense of experience, the ability to know self versus the ability to be able to reflect, know our own self, the sense of ego. I think all of those human experiences probably is what consciousness is. But why it exists versus the concept of knowledge and intelligence, which is what AI is defined by today.
Mm-hmm.
It has knowledge, it has intelligence. Artificial intelligence, we don't call it artificial consciousness. Artificial intelligence, the ability to perceive, recognize, understand, plan, perform tasks. Those things are foundations of intelligence. To know things, knowledge. It's clearly different than consciousness.
But consciousness is so loosely defined. How can we say that? I mean, doesn't a dog have consciousness?
Yeah.
Dogs seem to be pretty conscious.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and that's a lower level consciousness than a human being's consciousness.
I'm not sure. Yeah, right.
Well,
the question is what lower level intelligence. It's lower level intelligence.
Yes.
But I don't know that's lower level consciousness.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I believe my dogs feel as much as I feel.
Yeah, they feel a lot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they get attached to you.
That's right.
They get depressed if you're not there.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. There's definitely that.
Yeah.
The concept of experience.
Right.
But isn't AI interacting with society? So doesn't it acquire experience through that interaction?
I don't think interactions is experience. I think experience is a collection of feelings, I think.
Oh, there you go.
You're aware of that AI, I forget which one, where they gave it some false information about one of the programmers having an affair with his wife just to see how it would respond to it. And then when they said they were going to shut it down,
This is what I wanted you to hear, because this has been an example that people repeat on the internet a lot about, quote unquote proof that AI is going to take over the world, and AI is possessed with Satan, and AI is demonic, and all of these, things that people like to say. And he does a fairly good job of explaining why it responds that way and why it doesn't concern him.
Threatened to blackmail him and reveal his affair. And it was like, whoa, like it's conniving. Like if that's not learning from experience and being aware that you're about to be shut down, which would imply at least some kind of consciousness, or you could kind of define it as consciousness if you were very loose with the term. And if you imagine that this is going to exponentially become more powerful, wouldn't that ultimately lead to a different kind of consciousness than we're defining from biology?
Well, first of all, let's just break down what it probably did. It probably read somewhere. There's probably text that in these consequences, certain people did that. I could imagine a novel.
Right.
Like I said,
having
search
those
engine.
words related.
Sure.
And so inside,
it realizes its strategy for survival
it's
is
just a bunch of numbers.
Blackmail.
It's just a bunch of numbers that in the collection of numbers that relates to a husband cheating on a wife, has subsequently a bunch of numbers that relates to blackmail and such things, however, whatever the revenge was.
Right.
And so it is spewed it out. And so it's just like, it's just as if I'm asking it to write me a poem in Shakespeare. It's just whatever the words are, in that dimensionality, this dimensionality is all these vectors.
So, and I can attest to this. I do train these models. I have a pretty deep understanding. I'm not an expert, but I mean, this is what I do during the day. Is I work a lot with AI, and the way you train the models, what it does is it just takes information, converts it into numbers, and then predicts. It uses the input to predict the output. There's no conscious or will or emotion. So the situation that Joe described about the test that the researchers did, it's one of those things to where the news media got a hold of some research paper and then they completely misinterpreted it and turned it into an interesting article that made it sound like Terminator Judgment Day. The reality of the article, and I've read the ones that keep coming up, is they prompted they were all hypothetical scenarios, and they prompted the AI, what would you do in this scenario, which the AI is trained in its billions of parameters of training, and this is what Jensen is saying, is it's probably come across similar scenarios, and it's predicting that you want to hear that this is what it would do. It's not a reflection of intent or will or free will or desire. So it's not an indication that the language model, when faced with being turned off, would resort to breaking out of its confines and blackmailing somebody. Is the actual study, the actual research paper was about the responses that they got. So when presented with this question, this is the response that it got. It didn't actually behave in the way that the media portrays it, and that's what he's trying to explain. But he also gets into some other explanations that are pretty good here.
In multi-dimensional space, these words that were in the prompt that described the affair subsequently led to one word after another, led to some revenge and something. But it's not because it had consciousness or, it just spewed out those words, generated those words.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
that
it's
it
not,
learned
it's
from
not
patterns that human beings have exhibited, both in literature and in real life.
That's exactly right.
But at a certain point in time, one would say, okay, well, it couldn't do this 2 years ago, and it couldn't do this 4 years ago. Like, when we were looking towards the future, like, at what point in time, when it can do everything a person does, what point in time do we decide that it's conscious? If it absolutely mimics all human thinking and behavior patterns,
that doesn't make it conscious.
It becomes indiscernible. Yeah. It's aware. It can communicate with you the exact same way a person can. Like, is consciousness? Are we putting too much weight on that concept? Because it seems like it's a version of a kind of consciousness.
It's a version of imitation.
Imitation consciousness, right? But if it perfectly imitates it,
I still think it's an example of imitation.
So it's like a fake Rolex when they 3D print them and make them like indiscernible.
The question is, what's the definition of consciousness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the question, and I don't think anybody's really clearly defined that. That's where it gets weird, and that's where the real doomsday people are worried, that you are creating a form of consciousness that you can't control.
The only way that it would imitate consciousness, which would be like will and feelings, is if somebody had programmed it to do that. So, for instance, Elon Musk is training his cars with full self-driving so that they know when to turn left and when to turn right. Somebody with malicious intent could train that car to go run you into a wall under a certain circumstance. That would be specifically trained into the model. What I think a lot of people miss is what they miss is that unless it's trained explicitly to take that action, it will not do it in and of its own free will. There's something that's different about a conscious being and the artificial intelligence is the conscious being evaluates and learns and decides, which I guess AI does mimic. And you can, since they've done, they've implemented thinking models. I mean, I guess you could get to where the point to where, and that might be the point that Joe Rogan is trying to make, is like, look how far we've come in 2 years. What does the next 2 years look like? I see his point to where you could get it to where even if it is imitation, it starts to imitate free will and its own kind of will, even though if it really genuinely isn't. And I think that's what Elon Musk is afraid of. And one of the reasons why he wants to make an artificial intelligence that is far more powerful than anything else anybody else is building, that is maximally truth-seeking, so that it will provide a counterbalance to the woke mind virus. So I kind of see both sides here.
I believe it is possible to create a machine that imitates human intelligence and has the ability to understand information, understand instructions, break the problem down, solve problems, and perform tasks. I believe that completely. I believe that we could have a computer that has a vast amount of knowledge, some of it true, some of it not true, some of it generated by humans, some of it generated synthetically, and more of knowledge in the world will be generated synthetically going forward. Until now, the knowledge that we have are knowledge that we generate and we propagate and we send to each other and we amplify it and we add to it and we modify it, we change it. In the future, in a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, 90% of the world's knowledge will likely be generated by AI.
That's crazy.
I know, but it's just fine.
But it's just fine.
I know. And the reason for that is this. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
It's because what difference does it make to me that I am learning from a textbook that was generated by a bunch of people I didn't know, or written by a book that, from somebody I don't know, to knowledge generated by AI computers that are assimilating all of this and resynthesizing things. To me, I don't think there's a whole lot of difference. We still have to fact check it. We still have to make sure that it's, based on fundamental first principles, and we still have to do all of that, just like we do today.
Is this taking into account the kind of AI that exists currently? And do you anticipate that, just like we could have never really believed that AI would be, or at least a person like myself would never believe AI would be as so ubiquitous and so it's so powerful today and so important today. We never thought that 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Never thought that.
Right.
Imagine, what are we looking at 10 years from now?
I think that if you reflect back 10 years from now, you would say the same thing, that we would have never believed that. But
in a different direction.
Right. But if you go forward 9 years from now and then ask yourself what's going to happen 10 years from now, I think it'll be quite gradual.
One of the things that Elon said that makes me happy is he believes that we're going to get to a point where it's not necessary for people to work.
This is really
and
good.
Not meaning that you're going to have no purpose in life, but you will have, in his words, universal high income, because so much revenue is generated by AI that it will take away this need for people to do things that they don't really enjoy doing just for money. And I think a lot of people have a problem with that, because their entire identity and how they think of themselves and how they fit in the community is what they do. Like, this is Mike. He's an amazing mechanic. Go to Mike, and Mike takes care of things. But there's going to come a point in time where AI is going to be able to do all those things much better than people do. And people will just be able to receive money. But then what does Mike do? And Mike is, really loves being the best mechanic around. what does the guy who, codes, what does he do when AI can code infinitely faster with 0 errors? Like what?
Not 0 errors.
What happens with all those people? And
that's why I spend most
that is where it gets.
I use AI to do most of my job. My whole company does. We're an AI first company now. I spend most of my day looking for the problems that AI generates. It's just shifted the balance a little.
Weird. It's like because we've sort of wrapped our identity as human beings around what we do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
When you meet someone, one of the first things you meet somebody at a party, hi, Joe, what's your name? Mike, what do you do, Mike? And, Mike's like, oh, I'm a lawyer. Oh, what kind of law? And you have a conversation, when
Jensen makes one of the best points. And matter of fact, it's so good. I actually used it today because we were out grocery shopping and somebody had asked me what I do. And I said, well, I'm a software engineer and I work in cybersecurity. And I gave the example that Jensen's about to give for why it's not something to be afraid. Because the guy asked me, he goes, are you afraid that AI is going to take over your job? No, I'm not.
When Mike is like, I get money from the government, I play video games.
Mm-hmm.
Gets weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the concept sounds great until you take into account human nature. And human nature is that we like to have puzzles to solve and things to do and an identity that's wrapped around our idea that we're very good at this thing that we do for a living.
Yeah, I think, let's see. Let me start with the more mundane,
okay,
and I'll work backwards,
okay,
work forward. So one of the predictions from Jeff Hinton, who started the whole deep learning phenomenon, the deep learning technology trend, and incredible researcher, professor at University of Toronto. He discovered the idea of backpropagation, which allows the neural network to learn. And as you know, for the audience, software historically was humans applying first principles and our thinking to describe an algorithm that is then codified, just like a recipe that's codified in software. It looks just like a recipe.
Yep.
How to cook something.
Yep.
Looks exactly the same, just in a slightly different language. We call it Python or C or C++ or whatever it is. In the case of deep learning, this invention of artificial intelligence, we put a structure of a whole bunch of neural networks and a whole bunch of math units, and we make this large structure. It's like a switchboard of little mathematical units, and we connect it all together. And we give it the input that the software would eventually receive. And we just let it randomly guess what the output is. And so we say, for example, the input could be a picture of a cat. And one of the outputs of the switchboard is where the cat signal is supposed to show up. And all of the other signals, the other one's a dog, the other one's an elephant, the other one's a tiger, and all of the other signals are supposed to be 0 when I show it a cat, and the one that is a cat should be 1. And I show it a cat through this big, huge network of switchboards and math units, and they're just doing multiplies and adds, okay? And this switchboard is gigantic. The more information you're going to give it, the bigger this switchboard has to be. And what Jeff Hinton discovered was a way for you to guess that, put the cat signal in, put the cat image in, and that cat image, could be 1 million numbers, because it's, a megapixel image, for example. And it's just a whole bunch of numbers, and somehow from those numbers, it has to light up the cat signal. Okay, that's the bottom line. And the first time you do it, it just comes up with garbage. And so
what he's describing is how they train large language models. And this is really, it's kind of important to his point. because he's going to make a point that Jeff Hinton made this prediction about AI, which is very comparable to what a lot of people are afraid of. And it's gonna illustrate why we don't need to be afraid, because he got his prediction very wrong, but it was a logical prediction. So what he's describing is how Hinton got to his point of making that prediction, because it was based on how artificial intelligence learns. And what Jensen is saying is they came up with this algorithm the computers run, where you show it, where you give it a prompt of, I want a cat, and it goes and it returns a response of, this is a cat. Well, it gets it wrong a lot, but it continues to iterate until it gets it right. And then you can start this feedback loop to where it can start identifying all cats and variations of cats and different colors of cats, so that when you type in the word, give me a cat, or draw me a picture of a cat, it can actually draw you a picture of a cat. That's kind of what he's describing. He's trying to make it simple. It's not simple, but it's important to the point he's going to make.
It says the right answer is cat. And so you need to increase this signal and decrease all of the other, and back propagates the outcome through the entire network. And then you show it another, now it's an image of a dog, and it guesses it, takes a swing at it, and it comes up with a bunch of garbage. And you say, no. The answer is, this is a dog. I want you to produce dog. And all of the other other outputs have to be 0. And I want to back propagate that and just do it over and over and over again. It's just like showing a kid, this is an apple, this is a dog, this is a cat. And you just keep showing it to them until they eventually get it. Okay, well, anyways, that big invention is deep learning. That's the foundation of artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
A piece of software that learns from examples. Mm-hmm. That's basically machine learning, a machine that learns. And so one of the big first applications was image recognition. Mm-hmm. And one of the most important image recognition applications is radiology. Mm-hmm. Mm. And so he predicted about 5 years ago that in 5 years' time, the world won't need any radiologists, because AI would have swept the whole field. Well, it turns out AI has swept the whole field.
Yep.
That is completely true.
Yep.
Today, just about every radiologist is using AI in some way.
Yep.
And what's ironic, though, what's interesting, is that the number of radiologists has actually grown.
Yeah.
And so the question is why? That's kind of interesting, right?
It is.
And so the prediction was, in fact, that 30 million radiologists will be wiped out. But as it turns out, we needed more. And the reason for that is because the purpose of a radiologist is to diagnose disease, mm-hmm. not to study the image. The image studying is simply a task in service of diagnosing the disease. And so now, the fact that you could study the images more quickly and more precisely without ever making a mistake and never gets tired. You could study more images. You could study it in 3D form instead of 2D, because, the AI doesn't care whether it studies images in 3D or 2D. You could study it in 4D. And so now you could study images in a way that radiologists can't easily do, and you could study a lot more of it. Mm-hmm. And so the number of tests that people are able to do increases. And because they're able to serve more patients, the hospital does better. Mm-hmm. They have more clients, more patients. As a result, they have better economics. When they have better economics, they hire more radiologists, because their purpose is not to study the images. Their purpose is to diagnose disease. And so the question is, what I'm leading up to is, ultimately, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of the lawyer? And has the purpose changed? What is the purpose? One of the examples that I gave is for example, if my car became self-driving, will all chauffeurs be out of jobs? The answer probably is not, because for some chauffeurs, for some people who are driving you, They could be protectors. Some people, they're part of the experience, part of the service. So when you get there, they could take care of things for you. And so for a lot of different reasons, not all chauffeurs would lose their jobs. Some chauffeurs would lose their jobs. And many chauffeurs would change their jobs. And the type of applications of autonomous vehicles will probably increase. The usage of the technology would then find new homes. And so I think you have to go back to what is the purpose of a job? Like, for example, if AI comes along, I actually don't believe I'm going to lose my job because my purpose isn't to, I have to look.
Yeah, it's not taking jobs, it's actually making jobs, just because if you think about it, so what he's saying is true about a skilled industry, and we're seeing the same thing in my industry, to where it's not causing our companies to, there's some companies like Amazon that are firing engineers, but they've always done that, and it's not a new metric. They're just constantly cycling through people. But, in our instance, it's enabled our company to move faster. It's like switching from manual tools to power tools. You still need somebody with the skill to use the tool to get the outcome for the purpose of the job, but they can do it faster. They can do more work. They can do it more efficiently, and it eliminates a lot of the errors. And it's just better. Like, now we document everything. We used to not document everything because we never had time to document. Now we're able to iterate until we get exactly the result we want, rather than getting just the first result, which that's a huge problem in companies. Is you tend to, especially companies that are moving fast and trying to be disruptive and trying to be competitive, is you often get the first result that works. And then you move on to the next feature that you need to build. But now, because we're able to move faster, we're able to iterate. And instead of just getting the first result, we're able to actually iterate on the process until we get the right result. So not only is it increasing jobs, it's increasing, productivity and reliability. It's having a net positive impact, at least in my industry, and I'm seeing that too. And that's what he's saying is kind of contrary to the predictions, to where you hear the naysayers who are like, oh no, nobody's going to have a job in the future because AI is going to take it. Well, it might. This next section, probably the last section we'll listen to, is where he talks about kind of like a universal basic income, where in the future, because this is something Elon has started talking about recently, is a sustainable abundance, what that would look like and how that could work. He does a pretty good job of talking about it.
Got a lot of documents. I study a lot of emails. I look at a bunch of diagrams. The question is, what is the job? And the purpose of somebody probably hasn't changed. A lawyer, for example, help people. That probably hasn't changed. Studying legal documents, generating documents, is part of the job, not the job.
But don't you think there's many jobs that AI will replace?
Some.
If your job is
automation.
the task. Yeah, if your job is the task.
Yeah.
Right. So automation.
Yeah.
And I would push back that the counterbalance to that is it creates new jobs that were never available before. Like, there's a whole new slew of musicians now who can't sing, but they can work with the tools with AI to generate music, that kind of thing.
Your job, if your job is the task.
That's a lot of people.
It could be a lot of people, but it'll probably generate, like, for example, let's say I'm super excited about the robots Elon's working on. It's still a few years away. When it happens, there's a whole new industry of technicians and people who have to manufacture the robots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that job never existed. And so you're going to have a whole industry of people taking care of, like, for example, all the mechanics and all the people who are building things for cars, supercharging cars. That didn't exist before cars, and now we're going to have robots. You're going to have robot apparels. So a whole industry of, right? Isn't that right? Because I want my robot to look different than your robot.
Oh God!
And so you're gonna have a whole, apparel industry for robots. You're gonna have mechanics for robots, and you have, people who comes and maintain your robots.
Automated though?
No,
you don't think so. You don't think that'll be all done by other robots?
Eventually, and then there'll be something else.
Yeah.
So you think ultimately people just adapt, except if you are the task.
That's
which
right.
is a large percentage of the workforce.
If your job is just to chop vegetables, Cuisinart's going to replace you.
Yeah. So people have to find meaning in other things.
Your job has to be more than the task.
Yeah.
What do you think about Elon's belief that this universal basic income thing will eventually become necessary? Many people think that. Andrew Yang thinks that. That's a quote. He was one of the first people to sort of sound that alarm during the 2020 election.
Yeah, I guess both ideas probably won't exist at the same time, and as in life, things will probably be in the middle. One idea, of course, is that there'll be so much abundance of resource that nobody needs a job, and we'll all be wealthy. On the other hand, we're going to need universal basic income. Both ideas don't exist at the same time.
Right. I think it'll be like Star
We're either
Trek.
going to be all wealthy, or we're going to be all using...
How could everybody be wealthy, though?
Because
scenario?
Wealthy,
This is
not
the
because
point.
you have a lot of dollars, wealthy because there's a lot of abundance.
Yeah.
Like, for example, today, we are wealthy of information.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is a concept several thousand years ago only a few people have. And so today we have wealth of a whole bunch of things, resources that historically...
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have wealth of resources, things that we think are valuable today that in the future are just not that valuable.
Yeah.
You know, and so because it's automated. And so I think the question maybe partly it's hard to answer.
And the fact that this is coming up now, and with the events of the end time that we're seeing, this has to be a convergence to what ultimately lifts us out of the curse. Because part of the curse, where is that? Where is that? It's in the that's in Genesis 3. Let's see. So he said, I heard your voice in the garden. I was afraid. Because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle and more than every beast of the field. This is to the serpent. And you shall eat dust all the days of your life, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, you shall bruise his heel. To the woman he said, and then to Adam he said, because you have heeded the voice of your wife, and have eaten from the tree of which I commanded you, saying, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for your sake. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life, both thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. And you shall eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. This is part of the curse. And I don't think it's any coincidence that we're seeing one possibility for sustainable abundance where we no longer have to do this. In the sweat of your face, you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. So I think I'm not saying that's what this is. I mean, all of this could go away. It could be a big nothing burger, but I don't think it's any coincidence that, we're literally having these conversations and seeing possible solutions for how you can have a life of leisure and not a life of labor. Because that's what the curse is a life of labor, which is an interesting prospect.
Partly because it's hard to talk about infinity, and it's hard to talk about a long time from now. And the reason for that is because there's just too many scenarios to consider. But I think in the next several years, call it 5 to 10 years, there's several things that I believe in hope. And I say hope because I'm not sure. One of the things that I believe is that the technology divide will be substantially collapsed. And of course, the alternative viewpoint is that AI is going to increase the technology divide. Now, the reason why I believe AI is going to reduce the technology divide is because we have proof. The evidence is that AI is the easiest application in the world to use.
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT has grown to almost 1 billion users, frankly, practically overnight.
Yeah.
And if you're not exactly sure how to use, everybody knows how to use ChatGPT, just say something to it. If you're not sure how to use ChatGPT, you ask ChatGPT how to use it.
Mm-hmm.
No tool in history has ever had this capability. A Cuisinart, if you don't know how to use it, you're kind of...
All right. This whole interview would be worth like us sitting through and commenting on and talking about this from a spiritual perspective. It was really a good interview. I have a whole new respect for Jensen, especially when he got into the origins of NVIDIA. Oh man, I don't think I recorded where he says that. It was so good. It's kind of long though, probably the first 30 minutes. Man, if you get an opportunity, listen to this and try and find him talking about the birth of NVIDIA. Let me just say, I'll give you a too long didn't read in case you don't want to go find this. Basically, they had an idea. They had recognized that there was a need in the market to change the way computers work. When he started, computers worked sequentially to where they would perform a calculation and then another calculation would take place and then another calculation. He had discovered that there were certain problems that could be solved much, much faster by performing calculations at the same time rather than sequentially. It's called working in parallel. And it's specifically applicable to graphics because you can paint different portions of the screen simultaneously. You don't have to do one pixel at a time. You can do it all, in parallel. And that's what kind of gave birth to the video game industry, is the ability to to perform calculations in parallel. So he had this idea. He got an investment for his company from, I think it was Nintendo, of all places, something like that. And there were several other competitors working towards making a chip to power the next game consoles. I may be butchering some of this, but you get the idea. Well, they had something unique about his team is they did things differently. So most people just followed each other and repackaged similar solutions, which is really common in the industry. Disruptors tend to fail a lot until they find the new, better solution, which Jensen and Elon Musk both have this in common. Well, they had failed. They had used half the money that was invested in them. And when it came time to deliver their product to the investor, they didn't have anything to deliver. So he was faced with a decision to where the deadline had come and they didn't have a working product because something they tried failed. So he went to the CEO who invested in them. They still had $5 million of the money left, which was a ton of money at that time. And he just laid it out as honestly as he could. We used half the money. We tried to build what we promised. We tried something new and it failed. It did not work. These are the reasons why it failed. And we're not going to be able to deliver the product that we promised you. However, and this is the funniest part, I wish I could find this. I wish I had this bookmarked. He goes, however, I want you to keep your investment with us, even though we're not going to be able to deliver your products. You will very likely lose the full investment and our company is going to fail. That was his sales pitch to the CEO. There is 0%, and he said it very clearly like that. There is 0% chance that we will succeed in this endeavor. But I don't want to return your investment because if I do, our company will fail. It'll collapse tomorrow. Was his argument, rather than having a controlled business collapse. It would just collapse overnight. And long story short, the CEO came back and said, we're going to keep our investment in you with the full knowledge that we will likely lose it and that there's 0% chance of success. Well, as it turns out, they ended up having a breakthrough and completely changed the world, really is what it boils down to. This man here is very much like Elon Musk and Donald Trump in that they are pivot points for massive change on a global scale. So this whole interview is really worth it because you get to learn, if you're interested in any of that history or any of that stuff, especially if you're a nerd, if you're into games and video cards and building computers and stuff like that, he answers a lot of questions that I know I've had throughout the years of how things came to be and why they developed the way they did. He answers a lot of those questions. But if you also have any interest in learning about like the birth of AI, he goes into a lot of those questions. He answers a lot of those questions and give you a better understanding of how we got to where we are today. And I think all of it needed to happen. I believe from what I can discern is he listened to the Holy Spirit, because that's the only reason. So number one, he was humble. He was honest. He had no ego. And as a result of that, God was able to work with it. He trusted in God, and God performed miracles. That's kind of what I heard from it, and it's really amazing. And same story with Elon Musk. He's been in similar situations to where, 100% chance of failure, zero chance of success, and God still performed miracles. And we are where we are today as a result of it. But yeah, let's end it there. We don't have to continue going through that. Let me see if we have anything else we want to cover for the night. Pretty much it. Tyranny comes in the name of compassion. Yeah. Here's an interesting. Nah, we won't get into that. That's too long. Alrighty. Let's see if I can find any other new updates on 3i Atlas.
What's
one more search. There's one particular person that's pretty good. Oh, here she is. This is somebody I've been listening to recently who seems to be on the ball with information. Haven't quite decided if they're true, if they're honest or not, but she seems to be really on the ball with stuff.
Dangerous news, guys, from the Pacific Ring of Fire. That is this horseshoe ring that has most of the world's volcanic eruptions and most of the world's dangerous earthquakes, the mega thrust earthquakes. We just had Kamchatka with 8.8. So why are the scientists are saying that it's going weird, something strange is going on with it? Heightened activity, and that's not good, guys. And since I am living on the Pacific Ring of Fire, this actually concerns me a lot. So I'm going to share with you what the scientists have discovered. Scientists are flagging the rising unrest around the Ring of Fire, the Pacific Ring of Fire around the Pacific Plate. The scientists are tracking the Pacific Ring of Fire's most volatile margin, and they say that a familiar pattern is sharpening into something more urgent. And because we have clusters of earthquakes and restless volcanoes. And why is this so concerning? Because that hints at shifting stresses along the planet's most dangerous seismic belt. The Ring of Fire has always been active, so it being active is not the main reason of concern, but the latest signals, they suggest that a phase of heightened unrest is going on right now. So this affects coastal cities a lot. This is less about one single isolated disaster event, but what the scientists say, we could see a long grinding escalation of risk in which we could see subtle changes in magma, in plates, in pressure that could translate into life or death stakes for millions and millions of people that live along the Pacific Ring of Fire. And it's kind of concerning on the west coast of Canada and the US, where we know the Cascadia subduction zone, the big one, is overdue, magnitude 9 plus along the Pacific Ring of Fire. We're basically dealing with an almost 30,000 mile, 40,000 kilometer long arc.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of this stuff, like increased activity with volcanoes. We've got tectonic plates that are moving. There's increased activity from the sun, like all the things that are written about in Matthew line up. They're very much associated with seal number 6. So it almost makes me wonder if we're not on this timeline right here. February is going to be very interesting. See what happens in February. A short time could be 176 days. So we may only have to deal with seal number 5 for 176 days. So that could be when Christ returns. That'd be cool, huh? I think so. All right, well, I'm going to end it there. That's all I got. Let's see. So we've covered our Torment report with Donald Trump and Elon Musk. A very interesting interview with Jensen on Joe Rogan. He's the founder of NVIDIA, if I didn't make that clear. NVIDIA produces video cards, and they also are a big producer of AI superclusters now. They're the ones who are producing the computers and the technology for XAI. I don't know if there's, I think Elon has moved the chip manufacturing in-house to where the chips that control full self-driving, I think they produce those now. They don't use NVIDIA for that, but NVIDIA is providing the supercomputers for XAI and Grok. But yeah, so pretty cool thing. So it still seems like we're in the end times. Nothing has changed. Still seems like Donald Trump and Elon Musk, they are very active every day as truth tellers, standing in the gap, standing before the Lord of the whole earth, and making, even shows like this available on the internet. Because, had Donald Trump not won the election, I don't think I'd be on the air today. Had Elon Musk not bought Twitter, I don't think that we would have the freedom to speak that we have today. A lot of people would have remained canceled and unable to speak. So it seems very much like that these two men are responsible for us to be able to continue to share the gospel for these last couple of days, couple of years, couple of months. I don't know. The days ahead are going to be very interesting. So thanks for joining me tonight. Really appreciate you coming here with me and going through the Torment report and going through these different items. It's been a lot of fun. So look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, where we cover the Torment report and also follow up on 3i Atlas and a couple other things. So thanks again for joining me. If you like this content, make sure you like the video, subscribe if you haven't, comment if you have any questions, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Shalom, shalom. God bless you guys.